So what's so good about a string, and how is it different or better than my array of chars here? Well, down at the bottom of my comments, I'm going to write how I would initialize a string. In fact, how about this same string? Wow, that was a lot easier to do than my first round with the character array. So string word equals abracadabra. Well, okay. It's kind of like having a character array, but it's just I mean, I don't have to use the square brackets anymore. But what else do I get for free just because it's a string? Let's take a quick look in the Java documentation. On to Google. So I think I'm going to Google JDK8 string. Here we go. Okay, it's a class. Well, we've written classes, so that means that somewhere in a file there is a piece of code that says public class string. And actually, it's not just somewhere, it's in the java.lang location. So somewhere there's a folder called Java. Inside it, there's a folder called lang. And then inside that, there's a class file that's named string.java that has all the description for this class in it. We didn't have to write it. Here there's some examples. Here's one that we have going on in our own world where we have a string and it's equivalent to 3 characters. Okay, great. What else do I get? Let's take a look at the methods that string has bundled with it. Whole bunches of different ways that you can construct a string using other types. I'm going to skim past this to get to the more fun stuff. Here's the method summary, which means everything a string can do for you. Oh my gosh, it's all kinds of stuff that I wanted to do with strings and more. So here's char@. If I send it an index, it gives me back the character there. Here's one that compares one string to another string, and so forth. So, oh, here's contains that says if this string contains another sequence of words, so I could search for a word inside a string. This looks awesome. How do I use these things? Let's have an example. So, for example, char@. Char@, just to go back for a second, it says it returns the char value at the specified index. Well, let me click on it to get a little bit more details. Here is the complete method header, public char@, takes an index, gives back a character. And it says that the index has to go, the index that you give it has to be in the range. And does it say what it finds? Oh, this one actually you just have to send it an index that exists, of course. Okay. So if I want to get back, say, the second character in the string that is at position number 1, I could say char second letter equals word dot char@1. Isn't that magical? Word is abracadabra, and then I can just ask it by saying dot char@ to give me the first character back. It finds the first character, which is a B, and now second letter has a B in it at the end of this line when this is done. Examples of using strings. If I want to know how long the string is, for example, I want to print out how long the string is, or I want to use it in a loop, I can access the length property. And let's have a look at that. I'm going to back up one and just Command F and look for length, so I'll go right there. Length returns the length of the string, so this is really similar to getting the length of the array. The only difference is that I have to call a method. It's a little bit different than an array. So int number of letters equals word.length. So note the parentheses, which are not usually found in the arrays because we're not calling a method on the array, but we are on the string. So just to continue my previous example, let me take my comments out and write the loop that I wrote before, but just for the string instead of for the array. Suppose I want to do the same thing in my loop as I did before, count up the number of lowercase a's. So, okay, int num a's equals 0. I is less than word.length. Oh, but I can't use the square brackets here like I did before. I have to use charat. Word.charat I is equal to an a. Then bump up the number of a's. So very similar to before. The differences are no more square bracket syntax because I'm dealing with now an object that is an instance of a class, something that is a class. And I'm calling charat on it instead and passing I as a parameter. So the syntax is a little bit different, but the result is the same.